Welcome friends to another r/AmITheJerk video. One thing that is definitely not a jerk move would be to hit those like and subscribe buttons down below. That said, our first story of the day is by WeekThrowRA309. Am I the jerk for calling my husband out in front of my friends on planting a recording device while we're having a girls' night in? This happened last week. I'm female 26. I told my husband, male 31, I was planning on having a girls' night in at home, and he initially was like, "No, not here, get a hotel or something." I said I couldn't afford a hotel, plus no need for a hotel. He asked if he could join us if he's going to allow it, but I said no, that's not how girls' night ins work. He eventually agreed to let me have it, and even said he'd go out so my friends could be comfortable. I invited the girls over, and most of them had a lot of heavy venting to do. At some point, things got a bit emotionally charged and there was crying, lots of it. After that, we brought in the food and drinks. When I went to turn the TV on, I spotted a small device tucked on the side. I took a look and found it was actually a voice recording device. I was in disbelief. I knew my husband put it in there to listen to our private talk, which felt highly violating. I didn't hide it from the girls. I showed them the device, called my husband to get him to come home, and confronted him right there in front of the girls. The girls were shocked, and my husband denied after I flipped out and called him out. Then he said he was feeling curious to know what we were talking about and wanted to make sure we weren't trash-talking him specifically. The event was cut short and the girls left. I kept lashing out at him for ruining the night and possibly my relationship and trust with my friends. I said that not only did he violate my privacy, but my friends as well, because they were talking about very personal stuff. He argued that it was no big deal, that I should have just let him join us if we had nothing to hide, and that this was on them for opening up about private matters to begin with. He went on to talk about how I humiliated him to call him out in front of my friends. I told him they deserve to know who he really is after what he's done. We argued some more, and he went out again. We're in conflict till today, and I feel like I made a mistake calling him out like that, aside from how I felt about it. He claims that my friends will no longer respect him after that. Am I the jerk? Your friends won't respect him after that. The movie form of what teenage boys do trying to spy on a girls' night in. If you were or are married and you found out your partner was spying on you and your friends like that, do you think that could be a marriage ender? Who knows what else they could be doing? Let me know if you think it is or isn't in the comments down below. Our next story is by MoreAds3099. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay my brother-in-law for babysitting my daughter? I, 34-year-old, have a 5-year-old daughter. My wife's deceased and my in-laws are my only supporters. Some days ago, I had an appointment with the dentist and the babysitter who was supposed to watch my daughter called and canceled. I didn't know what to do, so I called my brother-in-law asking if he was willing to watch his niece till I get back from the appointment. He said he wasn't sure since he had a couple of tutoring sessions to get done. I told him to skip and drop my daughter off at his apartment, then left. When I came back to pick her up in the evening, brother-in-law asked me to pay him for watching my daughter for 4 hours. I was taken aback and asked if he was serious. He reminded me that he had 2 tutoring sessions that he had to cancel last minute, and since I pushed him to stay with my daughter and watch her, then I needed to pay him. I refused and said he was being somewhat greedy and an opportunist to even think sitting his niece would grant him easy money. He said it wasn't easy money, but time wasted in his very busy schedule. We had an argument and I left with my daughter. He called my in-laws, who said that he was in the right and I should have paid him for his time and been appreciative of his efforts. I told them I didn't expect him to ask for money, but they said it's what I do with babysitters. Well, yes, but he's family, and the last thing I expect from him is to ask for money for staying with his niece. Besides that, I had an emergency and couldn't miss the appointment, knowing how hard it is to get another one. He's still insisting on being paid, and I keep refusing. At this rate, I think he's being ridiculous, but I don't know. It all seems to be a misunderstanding. Say I did pay him. This would set the precedence for him to keep expecting money every time. Am I the jerk for not paying him? I mean, they literally had work that they were going to do that day that was going to make them money, and emergency or not, you did just swing by, drop your kid off, tell them to drop their work, and expect them to just lose all that financial opportunity. It's not their responsibility to watch their niece, and You do pay your babysitter, but because they're related to you, therefore they don't deserve the same at least amount of compensation? Just because they're family doesn't mean they're free labor. I think OP is the jerk. This next story is by Owl432. Am I the jerk for telling my aunt I suspected my cousin was a sugar baby? My husband has a client that I know for a fact is a sugar daddy. I had to go on a trip with my husband to meet him earlier this month, and on the second day, we went for dinner with him and some of his other guests, including my cousin. It was an extremely awkward dinner since she kept looking at me like a deer caught in headlights. In the past, he's brought his sugar babies to dinner, even while his wife is also at the same dinner. I had a bad feeling, but since I never saw anything suspicious, I was trying to convince myself she was just friends with his daughter. On the way home, my husband told me I should tell her to stay away from him because he has a bad reputation. I did, and she told me to mind my own business as she was an adult and knew what she was doing. She's 18. My husband made me really worried, so I told my aunt, hoping she could talk some sense in her. I made it clear I wasn't sure that she was a sugar baby, but I had a strong suspicion she was. My cousin called me and yelled at me for interfering in her life, and now she's telling everyone she won't attend family events if I'm there. Am I the jerk? I understand being concerned because if the person is shady or has a bad reputation, you're worried for them. I mean, if you're worried enough to the point where you're like, maybe this guy is keeping her captive, controlling her texts, maybe it's one thing to tell other people. But if you feel like it's just a bad crowd to be around or a bad person to be around, just express your thoughts and concerns and how you're there if they ever need help. And if they say they know what they're doing, they're living their life, don't worry about it. You don't need to go around stirring stuff up. So I think OP's the jerk in this situation. This next story is by Too Petty AITA. Am I the jerk for not letting my homeless brother live with me? I'm adopted. My brother and sister are the bio kids. I had some issues in my teenage years and wasn't the perfect kid, but brother was a bit wild too. However, since I'm adopted, one of my siblings have always given me extra crap for my failings. A few years ago, dad got sick, so I moved home to help him and mom out. I contributed to bills, took care of dad, took care of the dogs, cooked every day, cleaned and worked full-time myself, and just really tried to be as helpful as possible. I even offered to pay rent, but my mom said no. Cut to me having a car accident going to pick up dad's meds, and dad and mom buying me a used car so I could keep taking dad to appointments as a thank you for all the help. Well, my siblings came for that Xmas, heard about the car, and freaked out. They said that I didn't deserve anything and that I was using mom and dad. My brother cornered me and said as soon as dad died, I had a month to move out and stop leeching off mom or else. Dad passed shortly after that Xmas, and I began planning my move, and mom was really upset. She kept pushing me to stay, but in the back of my head, I had my brother's threat and just didn't feel comfortable staying. I ended up getting a place just up the street so I could still help her. After I moved, I ended up getting really lucky financially. I was within a year of renting, able to buy a house near mom, and have been doing well for myself. Last year, my mom's sister, who was also recently widowed, came to live with her and brought her 2 grandkids she's the guardian of. So my mom's house is full and she's happy. I help out and watch the kids a lot and still do most of the house maintaining stuff, so I'm over a lot. On one of the visits, my mom and aunt were discussing what to do because my brother needed to move home since his wife kicked him out. I offered to get the kids bunk beds and help move them into one room, and my mom was very grateful. A week later, my brother called asking if he could just live with me since he didn't want to share a house with 2 kids. I have a spare room, but I don't want to live with him. He's treated me like crap for 10 plus years at this point and never has a nice thing to say behind my back. Usually for my teenager years when I was struggling. He's vocal about not considering me family. He said he doesn't want me at our mother's funeral or in her will. I don't want anything from her and never ask for anything. She just offers things sometimes. The animosity is palpable. I would offer to take in one of the kids, but they're young and need to be with their caretaker, so I think he just needs to suck it up and stay at my mom's. My mom knows how he is to me and would never ask me to take him in. But my aunt is confused why I wouldn't offer that, as it makes sense and another person in my mom's house will make it cramped. Some friends are saying after all my mom's done for me, I should suck it up and let her son, my brother, stay with me, but I really don't want to. Does that make me a jerk? I think OP's not the jerk, and the long and short of it is, this is a person who has mistreated you your entire life, and especially during important formative years while you were struggling. You could have 5 spare bedrooms. You could have a whole mega house where they could live on the other half of the house, and I think it would still be okay to say no. When somebody's been, I would say, abusive to you like that, you shouldn't be forced to live with them. And I would never think anybody's a jerk for saying no to allowing a person like that inside their home. This next story is by BCJSKXNNSJSI. Am I the jerk for telling my wife she should get a nose job? I, 31-year-old male, love my 30-year-old female wife. We've been married for 3 years, and there's nothing I would change about her except that she's really insecure about her nose, and that she gets aggressive over it when I try to comfort her. For as long as I remember, she's always hated her nose and mentions it every day. And when I would try to comfort her and tell her it's beautiful and she doesn't have to change anything, she would get aggressive and yell that I'm a liar. 2 weeks ago, she got a raise at her job, and today she suggested the idea of getting a nose job. I said that if she's that insecure about it to the point that it's affecting her mental health, then she should get it done. She got extremely upset over this and said that I should have said no to the idea. She left her house to go to her mother's, and I haven't been able to get in touch with her since. Am I the jerk? This seems like one of those screwed if you do, screwed if you don't kind of situations. One of those loaded questions where no matter what side you pick, you're going to be in the wrong. I think OP's not the jerk. And unfortunately for OP and their wife, it seems like an issue that they just have a lot to work through. And I think it's manifesting in very unhealthy ways and making them lash out about things, getting hypersensitive or overly critical or worrisome. I just hope it doesn't ruin things between these two. And our final story of the day is by Throwaway679076. Am I the jerk for saying, "I told you so," when my wife got banned from seeing our grandson? My wife has been in constant contact with our daughter-in-law, our son's wife, about plenty of things. Their very recent argument ensued after my wife kept insisting on being present in the delivery room despite getting a resounding no. My wife was having none of it. And after my son and his wife changed hospitals to throw my wife off after she threatened to barge into the room, she eventually found out, I didn't tell her, and got very mad. I told her to stop and think, because if she keeps this up, she will lose all chances to see her grandbaby. She told me off and went to make a huge scene at the hospital my daughter-in-law was at. It didn't end well, and my wife came home crying hysterically after getting chewed out by our son and kicked out of the hospital. Things remained tense till my son called to invite me to see the baby for the first time. He didn't invite my wife, which sent her into a mental breakdown. I had an argument with her after she tried to guilt me into staying with her and shame my son for keeping his mom away from her grandbaby, but I told her I told you so and said that she had plenty of opportunities to get right with our daughter-in-law, but she blew them away because of her stubbornness. She started yelling about how unsupportive and cruel I was, just like our son to be siding against her instead of defending her and staying home with her when our son banned her from meeting our grandbaby. I went anyway, and she kept arguing about me taking the wrong side instead of defending her. I feel bad for her, but at the same time, I think that she was being irrational and made this a competition despite knowing how our son and his wife felt about her behavior. Honestly, to tell you the truth, I've read a bunch of stories all across Reddit, and this honestly sounds like a few I've read before, where there's just these crazy mother-in-law situations where they're like, I need to be in the delivery room, I have to be there, and I'm going to be there, and you're not going to say no. They get shut down, and then the baby's there, and they're like, well, I'm coming over right now on my own volition, and I'm not going to be told no. Like, I'm sorry for the grandma in the situation, but like, they've got to have some amount of self-reflection to realize just how crappy their behavior is in general. Nobody's going to put up with that kind of behavior, especially around a newborn baby or especially during the stressful process of delivering said baby. Needless to say, I don't think OP's the jerk, and hopefully their wife pulls their head out of their butt and realizes and apologizes but considering how they've handled every step of the way so far, I don't think that's too likely. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So of all these stories I've read today, which is your favorite and why? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, if you could like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. Whatever you do, whether it's liking, subscribing, turning notifications on, all of it helps grow this channel and I appreciate the heck out of it. So until next time, I'll see you all tomorrow with some more stories.